So let me just start you with an intro to networking. A lot of these terms will sound familiar to you, but they do come up in the Wireshark certification test, so I want to go over them again so you're fully prepared. So networking is the practice of linking devices together to support digital communication among them. In the world of computers, networking is the practice of interfacing two or more computing devices with each other for the purpose of sharing data. So these computer networks are built with a combination of hardware and software. So these networks can be categorized in several ways. The most common way to define these networks is via geographical area it spans. So the first is LAN, or local area networks. So these typically span a single home, school, or small office. Then there's WANs, or wide area networks, and these reach cities, states, or even the world. Actually, the internet is the largest public WAN. So computer networks also differ in their design approach. The two basic forms are called client-server or peer-to-peer. So for client-server networks, they feature a centralized server computer that stores email, web pages, files, and various applications that all the clients that are on that server can use. These client-server networks are most common in businesses. So think of it, even at a school, there's a central server that enables the network analyst or technician to update all the software on all the devices at once. So say there's a new update to Photoshop, I can just update that via the server to update all my computers on that network. So for peer-to-peer networks, conversely, all computers tend to support the same functions. So this is more common in homes, where you're not necessarily on a network, you're on a router possibly, but you're sharing just from device to device. So a common question on the Wireshark certification asks about network topology. So network topology represents a layout or structure from the point of view of data flow. So in bus networks, for example, all of the computers share and communicate across the common conduit, whereas in a star network, all data flows through the centralized device. So remember, the node acts as computer devices, and the links are the wires on which data flow. So the basic for that connectivity, or flow, is from network interface cards. So you'll find these on laptops, computers, or the nodes, and then you link between those nodes. So here's an example of a network interface card. It's truly just a computer circuit board that's installed into the computer so it can be connected to that network. These NICs can be wired or wireless. So there are two main kinds of network devices used for networking, and these are switches and routers. Switches are used to connect multiple devices on the same network within a building or a campus, for example. So when you think of a switch, think of you're connecting computers, printers, the server. You're basically creating a network for shared resources. So the switch would serve as a controller, which allows these various devices to share information or talk to each other. So by using switches, you can save money and increase productivity. Think of it, would you rather have a single printer for each device or one central printer for the entire office? You can use a network to send to that printer from all the different computers in that office. So there are two basic types of switches to choose from. First, there's managed and unmanaged. An unmanaged switch or hub just works right out of the box. It doesn't allow you to make changes, but this is good for like a home network or a small business. But managed switches, on the other hand, allow you to program it. So this allows for greater flexibility because the switch can be monitored and adjusted to locally or remotely and really gives you control over your network traffic and security-wise who has access to your network. So think of all the computers in a big hospital or insurance firm. A lot of protected data. You want people to log into the network to work on their computer. You're definitely going to go with a managed switch. So besides switches, there's routers, the second most valuable component of networking basics. So when you think of a router, it's basically tying multiple networks together. For example, you can use a router to connect your network computers to the internet and thereby share an internet connection among users. So think of it, in your own house or apartment, you have a router, right? What you're doing with that router is receiving the internet from the provider and then dispersing it to all the laptops, computers, devices in your home. So the router is really just a dispatcher, and it chooses the best route to disperse this information, so you receive it the quickest. Routers analyze the data being sent over a network, change how it's packaged, and can send to another network. So think of a router as connecting your business to the outside world, but also protecting your information from security threats and deciding which computers get priority over others. So depending on your networking plans or business plans, you can choose from routers that have different capabilities. But here are some basics that are covered in the Wireshark certification test. First is firewall. So a firewall is specialized software that examines incoming data and protects your business from attacks. So the firewall is basically checks and balances within your network to prevent certain things from coming in. Next is VPN, or virtual private network. So this network allows people to remotely access your network. This may include someone logging into their email from home, accessing their work desktop from their home computer, things like that. Finally is the IP phone network. So this combines your company's computer and telephone network by using voice and conferencing technology to simplify and unify the communication.